Welcome to a special episode of Flying Monkey Wargaming Podcast, brought to you by Advanced Warfare. But more importantly, if wargaming was easy, it would be your mom. With me, I have Scott, my other host on Advanced Warfare. And tonight we're just going to take some turns and go through a little bit of the Warhammer scene currently, some upcoming events, and looking at the Lord Marshal Circuit a little bit, and talking about the Lord Marshal Circuit for the most part. But let's move on to the my favorite portion of Advanced Warfare and Flying Monkey Podcast is when we go over our hobby time. I'm kidding on the Advanced Warfare part because obviously at Advanced Warfare we hobby so hard. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Kidding. Anyway, let's go to hobby time. I've actually... I got some modeling in. And I put some paint on some grotesques, which are now nicknamed Muscle Beach because they look like 6 Hulks running around. They're grotesques. Obviously, I don't paint very often, and you guys know this as I took so many hobby shame points last year. Scott, what have you worked on this? I know you've worked on a bunch of stuff.
Mostly what I've been working on this week is my sister's army, so just trying to get them up to army ready. And by possibly bringing them to Bug Eater.
So you're telling me in a whole week you painted a whole army?
No, it's been 2 or 3 weeks here at this point.
Two or 3 weeks to paint a whole army, and if you haven't seen Scott's stuff, it looks great. So he's obviously making me look bad right now, which sucks, but whatever. I painted 6 models in a week, which is insane for me. Like, bow down before me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I sit on meetings at work sometimes, and I'm able to get quite a bit done.
Well, I don't. I play too much Warhammer, but... that's okay.
Yeah, too much WoW for you.
Maybe that too. That's okay. Anyway, hobby time. So my grots, they look like Muscle Beach. If you don't know what that is, I can't help you.
Those look great. I mean, they look great in the picture.
Yeah, well, they're mostly contrast. But
contrast is a miracle worker.
Yes, I've got these Lumineth Blade Guard guys for my Incubi, and I gotta say, man, I really like this model. The Incubi model is not bad by any means. They're just a little bit too grisly for what I want to do with my Dark Eldar. It's kind of a long-time fantasy to have Corsairs as my Dark Eldar. If you don't know who the Corsairs are, I can't help you. Why are you listening to a Warhammer podcast if you don't know who Corsairs are? The Eldar Pirates, but you're welcome. Anyway. They are so sweet, but at the same time, I gotta say, the HQs in Sigmar are so good. I'm looking at this guy. He doesn't even have legs. Okay, this Avatar guy from Lumineth doesn't even have legs or arms, really. He's just a suit of armor walking around. And he's like really badass looking. I mean, really good looking. And I've got him sprayed and white, so we're one color away from done. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. You guys know. Jeez. Anyways.
Contrast all done.
This guy's going to be all contrast, too. Unfortunately, you guys won't hear my dogs because they're locked in a room right now with my wife. So I told my wife to go to the room and chill with the dogs. And, well, actually, that's not going to stop them. So, who knows? Anyway, let's move on to dojo time. Yeah. Scott, how many games you got in this week?
3 games. So
3 games?
Yeah, I got a Sisters against Dark Eldar on Sunday, and then actually tonight I got 2 games against with Necrons versus Imperium, Admech, and Knights.
Oh, 3 games. More than Duncan all than last year, by the way, for you guys listening out there. All more than Duncan last year. So tell me about your games. Let's go through them.
The Drukhari one, that was kind of a beatdown. I made a few mistakes on my movement, and with Dark Eldar, you just can't do that against them. So I wasn't able to trade the way I had in other times against that list. So it didn't go well for me. Like I lost Repention Retributors without really being able to do much in return with them. So that hurt.
Ooh, how many Repention and Retributors? That's some melted chicks, right? Retributors did you have?
I had 2 squads of Retributors, so I've made some adjustments to the list. I've added to the third squad now. So and then the Repentia, I have 3 squads of 9. So
27 Repentia. I like Repentia. You know, there's nothing better
oh
than a chick swinging a sword bigger than she is.
yeah,
And auto charging out of reserve.
it sounds like a chick with a giant sword running at you in her underwear.
I'm sure Bam is already turned on. But let's go to your other game. Come on, keep going. What are the other games?
So then I had Necrons against Knights. So he had the Morax Knights and I can't Magora Knight. It's like a lightning lock, but a bigger knight that has some of the same abilities. Yeah, I the first game I played against that, I made some mistakes with my Nightbringer. Had him in a spot where he was able to auto blow up one of his flyers, and that did the 3 mortal wounds. So I took more mortal wounds than I thought I was gonna in a phase. So because he only takes a 3 per phase, so it gets you off, and then he was able to take him down. Second game was much closer. I was able to go first that time because, like with Necrons, being able to get the 5-up invuln from the Chronomancers on your warriors and stuff, it just increases their durability by so much when they're shooting AP2 and AP3 at you where you don't even get saves. So, but he's just able to grind me down. You know, Tyler's a really good player, so it's fun playing against him.
Gotcha. Well, I got, going over my dojo time, it's a lot. Let me think about this. Jesus.
12 games this week?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think I got 7 games in this week. I played a couple Grey Knight games and a lot of Drukhari games. For those of you who don't know, I coach people, and a lot of times I like to show them different play styles and all that. So it's kind of hard for me to go over all the games. I'll go over a couple of my pickup games. I did play against Dark Angels in a league game, so I'll go over that one. That was with Drukhari. I've actually played this opponent at Spring Up. It used to be called Spring Con, now it's called Spring Up GT. It was at Fantasy Flight Game Center. But at the GT, the final score of our game was like 95-85. And, if Charlie, if you're listening, don't take this the wrong way, but you're going around telling your friends that it was a close game. I maxed points. That's not close. But this next game, I'm like, look, dude, I'm going to play the denial game, and I'm going to show you how many points I could have made you have. So the final score there was like 77 to like 29. And, I sacrificed points to play denial. And you can do that, but you hurt your own score. Like, I don't care what my opponent scores if I'm pulling out the W. But, like, if I can play denial if I have to. And then that was pretty fun to do because I just kind of moved all over the board using all the strats to bounce around and get up into his face with grots and using the Never Stand Still, which if you don't know what that does, 2 CP. It's Fire and Fade for 2 CP. And then flaming stuff all over the place. Dark Elder are just stupid. It feels like I have like one raider full of crap too much every time. And like, oh, man, it's glorious. But at the same time, it feels like Iron Hands. And so I kind of feel bad. But, I don't really feel bad because, Siegler won ITC using Iron Hands. And that's sometimes what it takes. I'm not saying that they're that bad, but I'm kind of saying they're that bad. But, I got another game coming up against Soundmanders.
To win the ITC, you got to play the broken stuff. So.
Yeah, that's fair. You do kind of got to play the broken stuff. You don't got to be a shitbag though. I mean, you can just be your normal self. I'm talking to all you other people out there. So, the other games were just teaching moments, and then there were some pretty close ones in there too that made me sweat. I will say though, if you are a fan of Grey Knights, they do pretty good against Drukhari. But don't expect to get wins if I'm telling you this. I'm just saying that they have some tools that other ones don't. Like, everybody's got a Stormbolter. They don't really like to be shot with Stormbolters once they're out of their ride, because they're T3 for the most part. And they only have a 6-up invuln, and if you're shooting at racks, they have a 6-up invuln, 5-up invuln pain. Purgation squads and Tide of Convergence, which is the shooting tide, are also very good at taking down raiders and dealing with foot infantry, because when you use Psychic Onslaught on them, they become Strength 6 -1, 2 to 4 damage. So you're wounding their infantry on 2s or their boats on 4s, and if they have Venoms, 3s. Overall, that's just like the perfect gun against it. Well, I shouldn't say the perfect gun against it, but like each one's 6 shots, so you can take down hordes of Drukhari and knock down raiders. So I'm just saying, Grey Knights might be some secret sauce there. But the next big tournament that we're going to, and I'm kind of going to shift gears here, and we're going to move on to like the next stuff, to some of the Lord Marshal circuit. That's Bug Eater. Bug Eater has been going on for, I think this is its 10th anniversary. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me just double check that.
It's 10th time, I think, but it's the 11th year because they skipped last year.
Correct. Yep, correct. Bug Eater is run by a friend of mine, Tim Royers, wonderful human being. Runs a fantastic tournament, has a backbone. To me, that's very important. And it's played in the school, and it's done to benefit the debate team at the high school where Tim teaches. Now, Bug Eater's great. Let's go over some of these key roster points. Some key players coming up that are traveling, that are not locals, let's say, for the Midwest from the Lord Marshal Circuit. So, well, actually, I can't even say this anymore because Colin McDade comes to everything. I've seen this dude everywhere. He came up to Minneapolis for Renegade. He's coming up to Bug Eater, and then we've got Colin Burns and Kyle Thompson. I mean, whatever. Colin Burns, he's a funny guy. If he happens to be losing quickly, he will quickly concede. So it could be a short game. I got let's see, Dave Arman's going up there. That's interesting. Sigurd Imperium. James Kelling, I think he's number 2 in the ITC right now. Watch out for him. He's a local though. Jim Moore's pretty good. And Joshua Death is coming. Anybody listening who happens to be paired up against this guy, he's on a redemption tour for being a known cheater / slow player / I'm purposely getting my rules wrong so that I can win guy. Just be careful. And he slow plays. And if he's listening to this podcast and has a problem with me saying that, I don't care, dude. Like, you are what you're lying in the bed that you made, so don't even come at me, bro. Like, you did this to yourself, not anybody else. Root. Matt Root might be coming. Oh my god, that would be amazing. Everybody knows I'm a Root dick rider. But
Making a return.
Yep, Nick Weiss. If you don't know Nick Weiss, he's a very good Imperium player. He comes up here from Minnesota. Well, up north, probably North Dakota, up there somewhere. Ryan Olson from Iowa, fantastic player, also a Warhog. Hey, look, there he is, Scott himself. Scott Sassers comments. Scott Thompson, Netless Thompson. He's a great dude. Probably bringing Jakari. Oh, what do you know? He is bringing Jakari. Sean Dilly from KC. He's always solid. Watch out for him. He could end up taking it. And then, Trent Northington, which, Trent, if you're listening, I still think you're a cheater. So, what do you think, Scott? Am I too harsh on people or what? Bam! Bam's coming. So the day's saved.
Yeah, you're pretty honest and blunt.
Pretty honest and blunt. That is fair. With these Lord Marshal circuits growing and growing, I think it's really interesting to see the different players wanting to compete, but more so the amount of TOs that have been wanting to get into Lord Marshal, and I see it growing. Who knows? This might be a direct competitor for ITC someday, because
now there's.
Go ahead.
Have you seen there's the copycat leagues or copycat conferences, like California has one that Adam Solis is running. That's a copycat of this. They're basically copying the Lord Marshal and using local events.
See, that's great. Like, I love that. But what I think end up being a large circuit where we could end up getting invite tournaments out for people doing the best in these conferences. I think that's a fantastic idea. But it'd be a lot of work and a lot of collaboration, and I'm not entirely sure that this Warhammer community is up for the collaboration. We just started collaborating with all the, everybody being on the same page with all the missions. And then you've got, Frontline Gaming, and then obviously Mike Brandt with Games Workshop. They're obviously working together. That's fantastic. But for the rest of the world, we haven't really started communicating on that level yet. What I'm talking about is like when I'm going to Renegade, I run the Renegade. We're not like partnered with, let's say, Nate Martin's Show Me Showdown. You know what I'm saying? But like if we had the same relationship that we had with Games Workshop and ITC have, or I shouldn't say ITC, the Frontline Gaming have, we could be doing lots of good stuff, and I think that that's something that is coming, but you never know. Obviously, But the Lord Marshal Circuit, I think I might be speaking out of my butt here, but when I say this, but I think it was the first conference outside of ITC to garner multi-state status. Am I incorrect in that? Am I wrong at that? I also don't know the East Coast very well because I don't go over there very often. So
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything that's popped up outside of the Lord Marshal or before Lord Marshal. I think it's kind of the show starter. I think Jason's been doing it, what, 4 years now? Because you won the Lord Marshal 2 years ago, and then Dan won it last year. Who was the winner before that?
well,
Or was that
the year I won it was the year that it was multi-state. The first year it was
okay?
a conference essentially. Before I
So
believe
this
it
is
was
the
an
third year then.
yeah. This is the third year for the Low Marshal Circuit, being multi-state. Uh, I think they had it beforehand where it was more local because I think
Yeah, I think it was like Oklahoma and Kansas only or something like that.
maybe it was multi-state before, but it was like the first almost I want to say the entire Midwest. I don't want to say the entire Midwest because it wasn't, but for the most part, most of the Midwest. Because I know some of
I
those
mean, there's
guys.
RPTs in North Dakota that are part of the Lord Marshal now. So I mean,
And
it's
that's fantastic. I'm thinking
I think it even dives into Texas a little bit too.
right. Well, I'm thinking more so along the lines of the east because I think some of the Ohio guys wanted to be Lord Marshal, and I don't know if they are yet, but that's pretty far out there, going from Ohio all the way over to pretty much to the West Coast. Because I think that I could be wrong, but I don't remember there being much Warhammer in the plains there, or at least outside of LVO. I remember traveling to the West Coast, like California, Washington, and then Midwest here
I'm
in the like the Tornado Alley area, and then Minnesota, obviously. Chicago's big, and then the East
not even
Coast.
aware of like Colorado doesn't have much for a 40k scene that I'm aware of either.
Well,
You don't see
they
any
have the
GTs in too
Trolls,
much.
and then that's a Warhammer club, and I do believe they have
Yep.
some there, but not as much as I would say like Chicago, Minnesota, or Kansas City does around those area. I think
Kansas
it's
City is crazy for how many GTs come out of that city.
which one?
Kansas City. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
there's what 4 or 5 GTs that come out of that city.
well, Minneapolis has four, but they're all Renegade.
They're all run by one. There's like different clubs that run all those GTs there. You got Show Me, uh, Midwest Conquest. I'm not sure if that's still happening anymore.
hmm
I think there's a couple more that I think. I know Bam has his over in Wichita, but that's not the same area. But
Yeah, it's pretty close though. And BAM, I think, runs three or
yeah,
four a year. So, I mean, we got a good
yep.
concentration of GTS here, and I think the players are excited to get up there and start, competing for those best factions or even winning the Lord Marshal Circuit. I think that's bringing people out for sure, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit about sportsmanship because I did bash a bunch of people just recently, and I know that I have this persona on this podcast that I'm like a hardcore against cheating, which I am. But on the table, I feel I need to be polite. I don't care who it is. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to be nice, but I am going to match my opponent. And sometimes that can get me into trouble. But for the most part, if you guys are just cordial to the other side to a degree, there is a point where getting upset and getting mad is warranted because, well, we'll get into that in just a second. But I'm saying keep your composure as long as you can. Now, Scott, you have been kind of like a prime example of this. I don't think I've seen you lose your cool very many times. In fact, I don't think I can think of any time. Because if you ever did lose your cool,
One.
I didn't notice. Or it was
Oh,
so tame that it just didn't log into my memory.
well, my one and only yellow card for a GT event was given by you at Renegade 2 years ago on the stream game because I that was probably the closest I've come to losing my cool at the table.
I don't think that you were losing your cool with your opponent though. I think that you were
No,
losing your cool for a different reason. I'm talking like getting legitimately like yelling at your opponent. I don't think I've ever seen that.
no, I never go that. I don't think I'd ever
I
go that far.
I'm gonna be honest. I gave you that yellow card at Renegade just to kind of prove a point that you on those top tables you don't need to act like that. People do that all
Yep.
the time, all the time. You are
Yep.
not alone in that. But
Oh no, I know. I realized what I did wrong and I've corrected it since then.
yeah,
So
and that's not a shot at you. I've lost my cool at the table. I mean, shit. At Spring Up, I lost my cool on James, but I was kind of matching him. But to my next part is don't get pushed around. When we let the cheaters push us around, if you don't feel comfortable matching their energy and getting combative, call a judge. Absolutely don't let these guys get away with it. We've got some questionable characters coming to Bug Eater. I like that because Bug Eater's not going to let them get away with that. But they will get away with it if you don't say anything as a player. So make sure that if you feel like you're being cheated or something's being dishonest, you got to call a judge. If you don't feel comfortable standing up for them and asserting that you're right in your rules, call a judge. And if you're not sure if they're right or not, and it sounds like it's like doesn't work that way, chances are it doesn't. So call a judge. So I guess what I'm saying is you can still be a good sport at the simultaneously keep people accountable for their actions, because we have come so far from letting Dearth like submarine to 6-0 at ITC because, or at not ITC, LVO because he was slow playing and getting 30-point wins and getting 6-0, but not hitting good matchup or not hitting hard matchups because he's at the bottom of the point pool. Like, we can't let people get away with this anymore. And I think some people have gotten lost and think that they need to be belligerent about it. But I'm saying be fair, but hold them accountable. What do you think about that, Scott? Am I crazy?
I think that's right. And I've seen many friends, you included, lose games because you were too nice to someone that was pushing you around. You didn't hold them accountable, and you lose. You lose a game because of it.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Now for the funny part of the podcast, my shameless plug, shameless. So I run a service that does a podcast. I'd like to say weekly, but I do have a day job, so for the most part, it ends up bi-weekly. I go over various tactics. This is called Advanced Warfare 40k, for those of you who don't know. I go over tactics. I go over factions so that you're not caught off guard when you find an army you haven't played against across the table. I also offer 2 other levels of considered coaching where I help people write their lists. I go over what are the strong units in the codex they're using, or the top tier where I actually, try to help them achieve goals in 40k, like winning a tournament, winning a major, going 4-2, etc., etc. And if you want to check me out, I'm at www.ageofsigmar.com. That website is still being built, so that won't help you, but the Patreon is up, and that's the Patreon website -AW40k. Honestly, I put a lot of work into it and try to make sure that I'm giving good information. I write episodes, but for the most part, I'm just here to try and make the community better, but at the same time, I like doing it. It's a lot of fun, and I think the people that I help end up a lot better at the game. And that's it for my shameless plug. Scott, you have any closing thoughts here for me?
Just to add a little bit on the Art of War stuff, or Advanced War.
What? Art of War? What? You bastard!
On the Advanced Warfare side, it's like, since you and I have been discussing lists and stuff, my level of play has increased dramatically.
Well, I appreciate
that. 2 years since you and I have been discussing lists on a regular basis, so it's worth it.
Word. Also, prayers to Bam and his family. Bam, we love you, and I'm glad to do this for you, and we will see you next week. If you guys have any questions, please hit Bam up, or you can hit me up on the AW40K Facebook page. If you have any questions about what we talked about, anybody upset about being called out for a cheater, bring it on. I don't care. Message me. I'll message exactly examples of why you're a douchebag, whatever. Other than that, that's all I got, man. So let's wrap it up and call it a night. Remember, this is Flying Monkey Podcast. If wargaming were easy, it would be your mom.